thread through all the movies we've talked about so far is they're difficult. The characters are difficult, or they're vaguely defined or not defined like a good Hollywood movie would define them, so you don't have the really overt explaining of people's motives, who they are, where they come from, what led them to do what they're doing as we're watching them. And that's something I love about this movie and the other ones we've talked about, just because there is so much ambiguity going on. Like you said about the husband across the street, you really don't get to know full on what his motives are, why he's doing what he's doing. You can make some inferences there, but you really can't, there's a real sense of the unknowable to a lot of the characters, and I'd say all of the characters actually, and that's what's kind of fascinating about this one. I think Elle is kind of like I don't know what you call it. She's like the center of the universe, and everybody just kind of revolves around her. So everything we know about these other characters is kind of filtered through her perception of them, I feel.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
But maybe that's why we don't get to know these characters a whole lot either, so I don't know.
And you know what I'm kind of happy about? So I've been reading about, this was based on a book.
Yes.
Based by Philippe Dijan? Like, it's not spelled like, but Djian. Mm-hmm. And I read the synopsis of it, and I read some reviews for it, and it seems like it's a lot more focused on a whodidit.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I kind of pulled a synopsis of it, and in this one, it's not. Oh, so the book. Let's see. Settles on Michelle. She works at like a screenplay place instead of the video game place.
Oh, okay. All right.
She said in the month that follows, when memory, sex, and death converge at every turn, as the publisher puts it, Michelle, who is the head of a film production company, suspects most of the men in her life, including her ex-husband, her lover, who's married to her best friend and business partner, a married neighbor she flirts with, are guilty. And so there's a lot more. It's more of a whodunit.
Yeah.
So it won an award. It was a very popular novel. But I kind of like that this movie avoids that. And it's ridiculous. Have you seen the poster for this movie?
Is it? Oh, it's the one of her lifting up Mati, the cat?
No, there's that one, but the one on IMDb.
Oh,
there's a door that's about 80% closed, and she's looking through it, and there's a hand with a black glove, like breaking in.
That's actually the art they used for the Blu-ray, which I have. Yeah, it's not really that.
Yeah,
it's not very good. Yeah,
and I guess you read the synopsis of the book, then you look at the basic points of the plot. But I'm kind of happy that it's not a whodunit. There's no mystery in this movie. Okay, I have a question. After the attack, and she initially thinks that it is Kurt, one of her employees.
Yes, yeah.
Did you even worry about a whodunit?
And maybe this goes back to the way Verhoeven handles it, the way he presents the film, like, visually. It's like I wasn't even. My mind was so far away from conventional notions of processing this film that the notion of a whodunit didn't really pop into my head. Maybe there was a slight aspect of that when Rebecca. It's like early on in the movie, Rebecca talks to Elle saying, "Oh yeah, there was a prowler, going around the neighborhood, and it was like, I think it's Patrick is the guy's name. Mm-hmm. Patrick chased him away or something like that. Patrick is his name." And I was just like, oh, okay, that's all right. So there is a little of this mystery kind of filtering its way back in, but my perception of it, even at that point, was like, this isn't any sort of conventional mystery. It doesn't seem like a whodunit, I guess, is what I'm saying. It doesn't seem like that's what Verhoeven was trying to do, and I kind of appreciate that. Yeah.
And I guess, so the editor, Job Terberg, he said that I think what drew Paul to Elle is that it is mostly about this woman dealing with the people around her, like you said, and these social interactions are at the core and define her character. That's exactly kind of what you said.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
that's what the movie's mostly comprised of, is her, just the way she's interacting with all these people and the way she kind of manipulates the situation in subtle ways to get certain things out of certain people. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so this is going to sound really random, but I was watching The 13th Warrior the other day. Classic. Antonio Banderas. But he learns to speak the Viking language by listening. And I think that's a really important aspect of this film. This is a movie that needs your attention because there are little things that you glisten from just tiny, tiny moments that if you were smacking on popcorn, you might miss. And so this movie, guess what I'm saying? I pulled Antonio Banderas and I just listened to it. I was amazed at how much more I picked up the second go around. The first go around, I was into it. I liked it, but I think my brain was kind of, it pinballs all day, every day. But listening to it, just like I didn't hear the first time that the husband hit her.
You know what, Mark? I was going to say, I think I missed that both times I watched it. So that's something I missed. Yeah.
Yeah. She just says it to him at the hospital.
Okay.
And she's like, she's like, we weren't supposed to do this. You weren't supposed to do that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they had an agreement. He went back on it. And then he's like, yeah, that's the biggest regret of my life.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
And I don't know, I can never speak, I could never speak on what happens to her, but it seems like in her past, her dad went out and murdered
27 people?
Yeah, and three dogs, 2 cats.
And was it a hamster or a gerbil?
Yeah, he let the hamster live. Which is a beautiful touch. I hope that was in the book, or that's just a great line, and I'm glad they kept it in there.
The way she delivers that, and this is during the Christmas party scene, no less.
Yeah.
It's just so, it's like everything else that Elle does is just it seems very off the cuff, very, oh yeah, this happened. My father killed all these people. Oh yeah, he's up for parole soon. They're going to do a special on TV about him. But it's just like it's just kind of like, oh yeah, this happened. It's just a matter of fact thing.
And they live with it too. She and her mom.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, they get stuff dumped on them. They get pizza thrown at them, spaghetti thrown at them.
I love that her mom says, someone tried to throw a pizza at me, but they missed.
Yeah, I love that little bit of dialogue. And you know what else is funny? I forgot to bring him up, but the gigolo that is with her mom.
Oh, God, yeah.
Now, this guy...
Ralph.
Yeah, Ralph. I mean, he seems like a super nice dude. At the end, he says some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But... So there's a scene where he's like, yeah, sorry we're late. I had to dig up this great bottle, and then she just walks away from him. Now, I see the rudeness in that, but she also probably sees this guy as a gigolo who's staying with her mom, who she funds because her mom gets into financial problems.
Right.
So there's this moment of blowing him off while he's being kind, but she also has no time for this dude.
Yeah.
So I liked the difference of that. But but going back to she from her husband, from dealing with her dad. I mean, when she was 10 years old, she helped her dad burn her house, and she has this iconic photo. She kind of lost control. She was a kid. She didn't know. So I feel like she's built this wall up.
Yeah.
To her from the world, and then what her husband did, and then this, and I feel like I don't know. She hasn't been able to control anything in her life. And I think that's kind of, I don't know, that's maybe she tries to get control of it by reacting the way she does. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know, I appreciate that. I also think it's interesting how a lot of the men in her life, so her ex-husband hit her, her son threatens her.
Yeah.
And then we have Patrick. So she seems like this very strong woman who elicits these reactions from men. It's like a very interesting pattern in the film.
Well, and something interesting, Mark, that... this is actually something we do see sometimes in the rape revenge subgenre, like I Spit on Your Grave, for example. Anna's husband Richard, when he doesn't really corner her, but Elle walks into, I guess, her office, and he follows her in, does the blinds, and he's essentially propositioning her for, okay, let's do something sexual here. So Elle is very kind of matter-of-fact about it. She's like, okay, and she sticks a trash can between the two of them.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, it's sometimes you see this like element of seduction going on. So it's like, well, is Richard it's not Richard. Richard's the husband. I think Robert.
Yeah, Richard. Oh, yeah. So you're talking about Robert. Yeah.
Robert, the bald guy.
Yeah. There's so many R's in here. Richard, Rebecca, Robert.
I was getting them mixed up while I was taking notes, actually, obviously. So, but I just think, in another type of movie, you would see a different outcome to that scene, perhaps. Perhaps the female character would be afraid or just like, no, what are you thinking? I've gone through this tremendous, ordeal. And here it's just kind of like, again, it's that matter of fact Elle-ness of Elle, kind of. It's like, okay, let's do this in the office, while people are working outside, basically. There's just no question about it. Let's do this thing.
Yeah. I like this character, man. Isn't Isabelle awesome in this movie? Isn't she? Now, I know she lost to Emma Stone in the Academy Award. Emma Stone won for La La Land, and I mean, she sang, danced, cried, monologued. But you watch, listen, it's a good performance, and I can see absolutely why it won. Mm-hmm. But I just think her performance in this movie is so, I don't know, it's so intuitive. And Verhoeven said himself, he said, they're like, what directions did you give her on set? He's like, I didn't give her any directions on set. He said that. And then Isabelle's like, well, blocking, stuff like that. And he just said, we talked very briefly, and what she did is what she did. He's like, I could not have done this with any other actress. And so my wife and I were talking. I was really unloading a lot of stuff on her when we were walking around our neighborhood. We were talking about this, and she's like, Mark, do you think, which actresses do you think could have done this role aside from her? Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I mean, we brought up a few names. We kind of talked about maybe like a Marion Cotillard.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
But I was trying to explain her performance to Megan, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
This is a excellent performance. There is no, I couldn't see anybody else doing the role. Mm-hmm. I mean, is there anybody else you could see playing this role possibly? I know a lot of American actresses they tried to shoot this in America.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Verhoeven came to America, and he had a writer translate it. So he had the screenplay writer David Burke translate it over here. And he went to every studio, went to many actresses. They all said no. And he said this many, many, many times. And he's like, okay, then we went back to France. Isabelle wanted it, and we just made it. And so he took a crash course in French, and then he made it in France. And so, but he said every actress turned it down.
Mark, maybe a close, not a close second, but maybe a far second. I could maybe see Julianne Moore doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like she's a bit, she can be up for anything.
We brought up Salma Hayek. I don't know, but I kind of see maybe Salma tackling it. I don't know.
She's kind of, she has that kind of uninhibited way about her too, I think, that would be a strength if she were to play that character for sure, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Julianne Moore. Yeah.
I mean, I just love Julianne Moore and redheads, so maybe that's it's a personal bias.
Did you watch Gloria Bell?
Yeah, and maybe that's why I thought of that, because that was a American remake of I don't know if it was a French film or what, but and I thought she was great in that movie.
Yeah, I dug that. I thought that was a surprisingly mature movie. I kind of dug where that movie went with Turturro and his daughters.
And I thought the way it handled relationships was kind of interesting. So maybe there's. I mean, they're two completely different movies, but there is a little parallelism maybe going on between, in a strange way, Gloria Bell and Elle. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big Julianne Moore fan. I think she can do anything. But I mean, I think Huppert is just so distinctive, as in this character. It's just, there's this subtle ferocity to her character in this film, but she doesn't really, she's like her cat. The cat is very passive, very, the cat's like, okay, you're getting assaulted. I've seen enough. When are you going to feed me next, kind of thing. It's almost darkly funny the way Verhoeven decides to open that movie, going back to the opening of the cat watching this whole thing unfold before leaving the room. It's like, is the cat kind of a reflection of how Elle approaches things afterwards? It's like, well, the cat can look like it doesn't care, but the cat, cats are very diabolical creatures too, whether they know it or not. They can plot and plan and lie in wait to enact their revenge or attack a stink bug like mine periodically does. So,
Do you know that in the original cut, or not in the original cut, but they filmed the scene where the cat died?
Are you serious? What happened? What happened to the cat?
But Verhoeven just said it was too much and he didn't want the cat to die. But you never really see it again.
Yeah, it's like, what is it? After the cat is like chewing at the bird, you don't really see it again.
Yeah, so they just thought, hey, they killed it, then you never see it again. But I'm glad they didn't kill the cat. Also,
yeah, Yeah.
Is Omar the dad?